Mark Davis, John, spoke to the media for 11 minutes wearing a backpack. And I don't know if he's got tax. Somebody asked, what does he have in the backpack? I said, iPad, a book.
Oh, I thought you meant like
noise
Albert
canceling
Breer asked him that when he
headphones.
was sitting there.
Noise canceling headphones for sure. Some snacks. Pretty wild. I mean, it turns out the people that fired Middlekauff from the radio station.
You were collateral damage. Not officially fired. He's never been fired.
For those of you new to the
twice.
show, 2016, we worked at a radio station. Contracts were up. We had a feeling it was over. John was doing the Raiders post-game show. They weren't happy with some of his negativity on the post-game. Keeping it real goes wrong, basically, is the story.
Yeah.
John Middlekauff's end at 95-7 the game. And one thing leads to another, and we do a radio show on a Monday, and then next thing you know, the show's over. Which, again, we weren't surprised because John Lund had heard some whispers.
Well, Haberman had also found on the internet this story about the guy they were going to hire to take over for us, printed it out, and then
I think somebody sent it to me. I didn't find it.
Okay, someone sent it to you, printed it out. We went into the boss's office, which it's weird even saying the word boss for this guy. It makes me cringe.
Yeah, tell the story. This story needs to be. We tell this story like.
And
once
we
every
threw
6
it down,
months.
and this guy is now still an employee. He's still an employee for the Raiders. Haberman slams it down. We both sit down on these chairs. He is just shell-shocked. Doesn't know what to say. This is the guy that clearly, I mean, that was probably 2 weeks before, it was going to happen pretty soon. And it was just silence. It was very awkward, and it was clear that, that it was over. We didn't know when.
He was like, John, we'd like to keep you on maybe as a contributor, but we'll work for the same salary.
Yeah, for the same salary, throwing out numbers, just a bunch of bullshit. I mean, I was fucked. Best thing that ever happened to us. Now we're sponsored by the number one vodka in America. I don't even think there's an independent podcast in California, sports-wise, as big as us. But I'm not sure you're the bragger. It's all worked out well.
Yeah, don't be fooled by our furniture.
Yeah. This is that couch I got, I think, at Mancini's. It's actually pretty sweet.
It's going well, thanks to all of you.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, so it's the main guy. Mark Davis was asked yesterday, because when the story broke that he lost his president before training camp, it was pretty weird. And then when it was like there was accounting irregularities, I think we all thought, did Mark Bedane, the guy that got me fired, kind of you fired too, but again, you weren't actually fired. Semantics.
We got paid out.
That he was stealing money. Because remember, there was a story a couple years ago with the Sacramento Kings guy that he was stealing money. And I was texting with someone close to the Kings yesterday. I said, a main difference is why I don't think Mark Bedane was stealing.
And what did Doug Christie say?
Well, he was that guy. Remember part of that? Did you ever read that ESPN story on that president?
Yeah.
He only made a couple $100,000, and he thought he was worth like millions of dollars to the company. What do you think, Mark? But if you just take an educated guess, Mark Bedane in the last 5 years being the president of the Raiders, doing this,
what his salary was?
7-figure guy.
You would think
he was making a lot of money.
Yeah.
Maybe in his mind he was underpaid, but I don't think it's shocking to say he made over 7 figures the last several years. Now that even if you're making $1 million, you can still think you're underpaid.
You think he was making $1 million
to be the president of the Raiders as they were moving? I would think I think most presidents in the NFL make 2 to 4. Like you run $1 billion operation.
And you run a lot of other businesses though. That's part of it, but they don't.
But he did help with he was the point guy for the move.
Yeah.
Yeah, he might have been making $750, but my point is he was making a decent amount of money. Now, in his mind, he still might have been underpaid. But clearly, to me, if let's say he was stealing, like that was part of this, he would have been arrested, right?
You're saying if he was like, quote unquote, overpaying taxes,
embezzling money, he would have gone to jail. They were, and I think the reason any team, right? If you're John Mara, if you're Jerry Jones, even if you're the best business guy, Bezos, you are not going through line by line the items for your business. There's a reason. Any businessman will know. Hell, you and I know you're very dependent on your accountant for questions.
Yeah.
So when he says something, you give him, oh, that sounds great. You don't actually know. Now, legally, once he signs, he's also liable. So it's like why he doesn't do. They were, under Bedane's watch, overpaying Oakland. And talking to Romanowski and Mark Davis's face, he refused to say it. And Romo told me today, he's like, I think it was a lot of money. Clearly, Mark's face in the interview yesterday, when he was doing the interview with the backpack, he didn't act like we overpaid him $100,000 a year for 5 years, right? To me, the face, I'm going to take an educated guess, $50 million, maybe $8 million over an 8-year period. That would be 64. But I mean, it's a lot of fucking money. And then they asked him, like we all think, if you ever overpay, in California, we get taxed a lot. You get a refund, right? If you overpay, you might get $4,000 or $10,000.
That's what I would say. You guys didn't catch it.
Exactly. But you don't catch it when you get a refund, like your personal taxes.
I don't catch it. They catch it. They send me a check back.
No, the state or Fed catches it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But I'm saying I overpaid you by $8 million. Nobody caught it.
Well, and then it's not refundable. So he fired him for basically.
And it might be that the overpay was they didn't take some, discounts they could have taken, right?
Yeah. Who knows? Whatever it is, they screwed up a ton of money for a team that isn't now. Jerry Jones, Robert Kraft, Steve Ballmer, flush guys would have been furious. This is unacceptable.
Just on principle.
You can make a mistake. Like I would imagine when you say most, if you just took the average Fortune 500 company, have they screwed up $1 million here and there over the years? Probably. Right. But consistently during the move. And when Mark said, does this go back to Oakland? He's like, yeah, it started in Oakland. They were paying when they were in Vegas.
Because the reason it came up is because he's like, we can't get our money back because the statute of limitations has expired on some of it.
Well,
so they're like, well, you haven't been here that long.
Well, don't you think maybe some outside counsel started looking at it and they're like, you guys are
well, I
up
think
here.
They moved. There's now a lot of other people invested in the Raiders. The league is invested. The casinos are invested. The Las Vegas is invested. And if someone's going to give you a bunch of money, they want to see what you got going on.
What would you say the number one industry of balancing books is?
I would say the casinos.
So there's a good chance maybe their main partner with the casinos is just an educated guess. They bring them in to help, right? Hey, let's help you out. You got more money here. Or something like, or maybe they just don't even bring in help. They have to bring
I think it's like.
And then they go, what the fuck? And Mark goes, what the fuck? And then they fire everybody. And Mark gave him listen.
Mark goes, what?
You give him credit for doing this. Life's so good for us. I didn't even get any joy, even seeing that. It's funny, but it's like, whatever. The guy's an idiot. The guy is, you get that on your resume. If you're a business guy on your resume, you lost an NFL team that you ran X number of millions. You're a walking red flag. That's like a player that hits a woman or something. It's like, that's his job. Like, what am I hiring you to do? Like, what's your role? You're a business guy and you fucking lose me money. Be like, you're a talker and you can't talk.
And not lose money from we just made, we rolled out this fan experience thing that nobody paid money for or right. It's like literally it was just the numbers. Apparently. I do think it's also a lesson to Mark Davis. This organization for a long time was run by just basically promoting people from within and hiring people,
Well, Romo was like, yeah, I think George Blanda's kid was their controller.
It
was very mom and poppy.
Yes. And I know because
which is normal in the 60s and 70s.
And there's something great to be said for having an organization that promotes from within. That's ideal. If the environment is one that breeds competition and growth and personal evolution, and you're on the cutting edge, and the people that you promote from within learn from somebody else that was on the cutting edge. That's not historically been, I would say, the environment there. And again, it's part of what makes them different. And I do truly, just as a human being, appreciate it. But the lesson to Mark Davis is your next president can't just be somebody you know. Now, if you interview a bunch of people and the guy you've got is the best one for the job, fine. If you interview a bunch of people and the guy and Coach B is the best coach for the job, fine. But I get it. When you're not in that world, it's daunting. It's hard. It's easier just to keep status quo.
I do think you have access, though, in an industry like this, to place a couple calls. I don't know, Jerry Jones, Robert Kraft.
Do you? Because you're calling them all out.
Well, to me,
do they want to help?
As funny as that part was about him making fun, he did go rogue a little bit. And I saw a couple people, maybe it was a sports business journal, you can't, they don't like you. And maybe he just thinks it doesn't matter.
Nothing to lose.
Now, he is a little throwback. He did call them out for the Washington football team. To me, which,
You know what Breer wrote? He's like, we got 260 pages on Deflategate. We got 130 pages on Ray Rice. We've got X amount of pages on whatever.
That's what Mark said to him?
No. That's what Breer wrote.
Oh.
Yeah.
So and he did drop a line we're the Raiders, we're used to it.
Which is
when I did Raiders post game, one thing I hated, it was this victim mentality. Yeah. And I'm like, I can't do this. And it's probably why I didn't last long with the owner and the president, because I didn't think like that. That's not. You think Jerry plays victim mentality or Robert Kraft? They play big boy fucking money flows. And I think the Raiders and Mark, in fairness, it's all he knows. I think it's going to be very, very difficult, which is sad because I was even bullshit with Romo this day. It was like, God, they look good. I'm like, yeah, they're 5-2. They're pretty equipped to not just make the playoffs, but like, it's not inconceivable that in the first round they're favored in a game. Like they have a good team.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's hard.
They might be a 2 seed.
It is hard. Technically they are. Well, the Bengals are the 1 seed right now. It's hard to overcome your franchise for sustained.
The thing that sucks about it is I do think he's right.
He's not wrong.
They want me out.
He's not wrong.
He didn't say that explicitly, but when he says like, yeah, this is part of the deal with the Raiders, he's right. They don't treat him equally.
Yeah.
So he's got to overcome that. But I think part of overcoming that is going from outside your organization, hiring people who have had success somewhere else. It's scary. You don't know them, and that's challenging. But who's giving you recommendations?
But that guy, I would say, the bigger you get in any business, especially if it's not just like a community-only business, you are going to hire people you've never met before.
But I mean,
you've been hired to a job. I've been hired to a job. We never knew a soul.
You as the boss have to have the skill to filter through everybody and go, that's the person. Do you know what you're looking for?
Well, or you need to hire someone that can do
Well,
that.
you got to start somewhere.
I know. They got problems.
And that's where you call Ron Wolf, right? That's how you. But like to me, it's like
you might be a little lucky. Maybe Mayock, but again, like Mayock, and even if they keep those guys are football people, right? This is about the money. This is about dealing with the league. Like that's not his job, right? That's John Schneider and Pete don't have to deal with that, right? Andy and Veach, they don't even have to think about this shit. Their owner just goes to the owner meeting, comes back, and there's like, how's it going? We're like, we got Mahomes locked in, right? Or going to Pete, like, fuck, one more week and Russell's going to play. There's all they do. When I was with the Eagles, that entire upstairs, which was scouts, coaches, the only thing we ever talked about was football. Now that involved money.
That's all we talk about.
How much was this sign guy? But it was like Don Smolinski, the president. He dealt with the accounting, with Taylor Swift concerts. Like, how did I worry about that? John Lynch doesn't worry about that, right? Now, occasionally they might send you to something, but I think the Raiders still operate where it's all like under one umbrella. And it like this does impact the Raiders.
Well, it does. And that's where I think like being a really good football team this year, maybe it opens the door for somebody who wouldn't otherwise take the job going. And being in Vegas opens the door. Like somebody who wouldn't otherwise consider going,
we've said a long time, guy, if they became available, they would have. I can't even.
I'm not talking about buying the team. I'm talking about
helping them out.
Getting a coach that you don't have to overpay to be there. Getting a president that has options and takes your job.
Well, think about this. Again, aren't they surrounded by several major companies? MGM, Bellagio, those might be under the same umbrella, but 3 or 4 of the main casino companies. Yeah. Who do they fucking hire?
Right.
I mean, what's the
George Kliavkoff?
Yeah, but aren't there like probably 5 or 6 guys like that? Sure. And you could just, hey, you know what I've ran? I started at KPMG, but I've been working for MGM in the last 10 years in 7 different capacities.
In events.
Yeah. I run a company. This building alone generates $2 billion a year. Every day, I'm just throwing out random numbers. $78 million comes through under my watch every day.
Right.
I know is money.
Celine and Garth.
All I know is money.
And I paid them $35 million to do it.
I would say the money capital of the world, it would probably be like Silicon Valley or New York, just when you think banks or fucking tech. But when you think Vegas, really the root of what Vegas is.
Those money machines. Like,
well, just money.
Money.
And accounting, when you're that much money's coming in and out. Can you imagine in the accounting that's there?
Accounting irregularities. I see on your resume here, accounting irregularities.
Now, the one thing I would, take a little joy in, just the reaction. The first time whoever the outside counsel came in and circled and then took it to Mark. Like, hey, Mark, you have overpaid $67 million the last 7 years. I don't care who you are, Jerry Jones, Mark. That is Guy Haberman, John Middlekauff. That reaction, hearing a number that I'm sure is that's a big number no matter who you are. You just overpaid, and I've looked into it. We can't get it back. You are so
That'd be
angry.
The worst. Like, all right, but we can get it back, right?
Yeah. You know the anger, like when you're a kid and you get in trouble at school and you come home and your parents are really mad at you? I would multiply that by like 700 times. And just in that building, everyone's on edge. people don't even quite know what's going on, and then Mark finds out he fucked up.
And
Bedane,
all you've never wanted to do is you just never wanted to fire anybody. Now you have to fire multiple people.